I'm Cathy from Cathy's Crawly Composters. Today we're going to talk about what to do with your living composter now that you have it. So you've got your composter in the box, you've taken it out of the box, and it comes with 4 pieces. So a lid, 2 operating trays, right? So each tray is the same, holes in the bottom of each tray. So there we go. And then a base that to collect their liquid, so there's a little drain basin. And you're going to attach your legs with a Phillips screwdriver. So you want to make sure that you've got one of those on hand. Fasten your legs in so they don't fall out. And then you're going to attach your tap at the bottom. When the little toggle is up and down, your tap is open and the liquid can flow out. So there we go. So I would suggest leaving it open. There we go. And then we're just going to put our trays on. So your living composter has arrived with your initial bedding. Now what? So you've got some paper, your bag of paper. You've got a container of soil and a brick core. So the core is a replacement for peat moss. Peat moss is renewable like oil, about 1,000 years. So not in our lifetime. So the core is the outside husk of the coconut. So these are compressed fibers. So you have enough for 2 trays. So you're only going to use half for your first one. If you have a wood chisel, that would be the ideal thing for splitting it. It's pretty easy to separate. Or you can use a flathead screwdriver, a knife, and whatever you've got. So you want to just stick your chisel or the edge down into about halfway. If you have a hammer, you can just do a couple of taps, tappity tap. You're going to move it along to another spot, about equal spot. Tap, tap, tap. Make sure that you're paying attention so you don't hit your thumb. Just gently break that apart. So you're going to put half into a bucket with about 2 liters of water. There we go. Glug, glug, glug. And so this will take a few minutes for this to absorb the water. The coconut core will expand as it absorbs the water, and then we'll mix that with the rest of our ingredients. So there we go. And then you just take your other half of your core and you set that aside for when you're going to be adding your next tray in. Okay, so you can see that our core has nicely mushed up to all 2 liters. Look at that, it's so beautiful. So we started with half the brick. Now we've got, about half a bucket of nice moist core. We're going to add the rest of our ingredients right in here to mix up. So let's add in our paper. Beautiful, fantastic. All right, so we'll mix up our paper. Very good. Make sure that it's all wet. You want to mix it up very good. Get the paper all wet. Absorb. Worms are about 90% humidity, so they require a fairly moist environment. When you're mixing up your bedding, better too wet than too dry. If it's sopping, you want to add a little bit more dry bedding. If it's not wet enough, once you get your bedding mixed up, then you're going to add a little bit more moisture. So this is just 1 liter of soil. We're going to add in some soil. The soil that you want to add in just soil from the garden, not potting soil. Potting soil is sterilized, so even if it's organic potting soil, it's fine, but it's not going to have the microbes, and that's why you're adding the soil in for the teeth. They're kind of the teeth. They do the heavy lifting for the worm bin, and then the worms are the cleanup crew. So beautiful. All right, and then the last ingredient that is not included with your kit that you'll add in yourself is a little bit of eggshells, about 6 to 8 crushed eggshells. So they don't need to be pulverized. You can pulverize them if you like. They just need to be crushed up. So then you're adding the eggshells. The worms require calcium for reproduction, and the eggshells will balance the pH in the bedding. This is beautiful. Oh my gosh, the worms are going to be so happy. So, before we add the worms in, we'll just do a little squeeze test. Yep, a few drops coming out. Here we go. Yeah, that's beautiful. So we're going to add that in. Oh, so before we add on the next tray, we're just going to cover the bottom. Your bin also came with a couple of sheets of paper. You're just going to cover the bottom of the tray, and that's you just do this on your first tray, and you're doing that so then the material doesn't fall through and the worms don't fall through your initial bedding. Look at that, so beautiful. All right. So then you kind of just add it in a little bit fluffy. All right. So now your bin is all ready to go. At this point, you would add your worms in. If you got a pack of, if you ordered the worms with your bin, then they would come, you add them right in. We package them in coconut coir so you can add everything in. And then leave the lid off for a little bit to force them down into the bedding. And then when you're feeding your worms, you actually pull back the bedding, add your chopped up food in the hole you've made, make sure that it's covered so you don't get fruit flies. And then you just add your lid on. It is an operational, functional piece of furniture, so you can just sit down, you can actually use it as a stool. I do suggest leaving your empty tray underneath until it's time to add it to the top, just so then you don't have to store it somewhere else and then find it later, and it just will be fine. I wanted to show you my living composter in my kitchen. It's ready to add the next tray. So come on inside. Follow me. So my living composter lives right here in the kitchen. So I've got my 2 trays. Here we go. Look at that. So beautiful. So I'm just going to take the lid off and show you actually the lid. So look at how the lid, how there's tracks all the way around the lid. That's fine. That's the worm compost, the castings. They do travel around. If you open your bin and the worms are all around the edge or all around the lid, that's worm speak for something's going on. They need some attention, and it might just be it's time to add the next tray, as it is with mine. So come and have a look inside my worm bin. Wow, it's pretty full. And I wanted to say, when you're adding your next tray, you do want to make sure that the bedding is touching the holes in the next tray. So look at this. You can see still some recognizable, lots of recognizable pieces on top, some bedding, some food bits. And I'm going to pull back the bedding and show you what's underneath. This one is ready to, oh my gosh, look at this. Wow. Yay, look at all those guys working so hard. Thanks, everybody. And you can see there's quite a few sprouts in here. Yes, look at all this stuff growing. So that's fine. What I do with this, just take it, pull it out, and you just rip it a little bit, and then you add it back in for food. The worms will get it eventually. So this is ready to add the next tray on. How wonderful. So if you've got the basic kit, you're going to need to empty one of your trays, because I'm going to show you the bottom tray of my living composter. Come on back in, let me show you this. Wow. Oh, let me just hold them together so you can see. We started like this with the shredded paper, all the material, and then the bottom tray is just about all converted. Wow. So beautiful. I'm not sure if you can see, but the worms we mounted this up because if it's not touching the holes, you need to actually add some stuff on top so it's touching. And you can see here the material is all converted. There's a couple of tea bags. Looks like a tea bag. Yep, tea bag. So tea bags are made of synthetic fibers. You just poke a hole, the worms will eat the tea, but then you're left with the synthetic fiber. I just take those out, remove those, and you can see again something else growing here. I'm going to take those out and put them in the upstairs tray, and then I want to show you, wow, look at this beautiful material. Look at it. Just, okay, so that's mostly eggshells. There we go. Look at that. No worms. I can't see any worms so far. So they've all gone upstairs. This is ready to use in the garden. So I would take this, use this in my garden. Because I have extra trays, I don't need to do anything with this. I'm going to leave that right where it is. There's no worms there. I can leave that for when I need it, and it's going to stay moist and viable because it's going to keep on getting showered down with moisture from up top. So now it's time to add my next tray. So holes in the bottom again to show you. And then when you add your next tray on, I don't know if you can see, but the material is actually touching the holes, and that's essential. If the worms are going to be able to crawl up to the next side. So I set up my bedding in advance when I was setting up the others. So I'm just going to add this in here. Here we go. So that was set up just like the other material. That's so beautiful. Look, nice and moist and fluffy. And there we go. So now all we do is bury some food scraps up here. We no longer add food scraps to the bottom tray. We want to encourage the worms to come upstairs. So although there's a lot of material still down in the operating tray where the worms are, some worms will go up to the new bed and yay, new adventures. Some will stay there and they'll finish what's there. You saw how converted the bottom was? That's how the second tray will become as well. So you can get if you have a basic kit, you would need to empty that. If you don't, the expansion pack comes with 2 extra trays, so then you've got 4 operating trays. It really gives you a lot of flexibility and freedom to create more beautiful black gold or castings, plant food, that you can grow more delicious, nutritious fruits and vegetables. Hey, worm away your garbage. Ask me how. Thanks for stopping in today.